John Smith with Extra Hop Networks. This is the first recording we've had in a while. Today I want to talk a little bit about our RevealX platform and basically tagging devices so that they can be put under surveillance, right? A special level of surveillance. And let me give you some scenarios. Let's say there is a particular 0 day that has a certain fingerprint, like a DNS lookup, or it downloads a particular executable, or it downloads, or it goes to or visits a specific URI, or it does a what we call a naked post, or a post that doesn't have, that's not preceded with gets. The point is we want to be able to provide maybe a higher level of surveillance for particular devices that violate a certain condition, or a certain risky condition that, when it evaluates to true, makes the device more interesting to us than, say, monitoring for the same condition across thousands of devices. So we're pulling forward those devices that match particular criteria. An example would be here. We're looking at an HTTP response, and this is JavaScript. This is our trigger engine. But keep in mind, we'll write all of these. This is just some examples of the extensibility we have. Here, if I have a status code that's less than 400, basically not an error, and the URI is a .exe, we could also look at the payload and look for this program cannot be run in DOS mode, which is also an indicator of a binary file. Then we want to execute this tag device function. And here we're just basically going to tag device. We're going to put it into a device group called suspect devices. So if you look here, there are no current members in the suspect device group right now. And here's an activity map. Obviously, with no members, we don't have any activity going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to download an executable. So I've gone to URL house and I have this executable here. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's meet this criteria. So here I'm going to go ahead and download that executable, right? And so when I do that, it's downloading this executable. So here that should be evaluating to true. We actually have an instance where we're downloading an executable file, and when we see that, we want to be able to track lateral movement there. So now it'll take a little bit, but eventually we should start to see a device in here. So now we see this particular device, 172.16.178.85, has now shown up there. And if you look here, you'll see that is in fact the IP address of the offending device. So now if we come over here to our activity maps, we can wait for this to refresh. This will eventually refresh, or I can just toggle these buttons, which will force a refresh. So when I toggle these buttons here, we should get let's refresh that guy. The recording software is kind of playing with my resolution here, so we'll just refresh this. So here when we look at this activity map, we'll see that the actual device is showing up there as having used, and if you see, you'll see the same device, 172.16.178.85. So I want to test it again, right? I'm going to go ahead and try the same thing on my Kali Linux box as well. So I'm going to go ahead and execute this. We're going to download this. So what we've basically done, and if you look, we should now have a couple of devices. May take a second. Yeah, so now we see the Kali Linux box is also now a member of the suspect device group. And so when you think of this in terms of, let's say, a really nasty 0 day where there's something we can attach to, right? In this case, we want to monitor the lateral movement of any device that downloads an executable. So here we're able to, basically we can assign certain surveillance triggers or detections to this particular device group, so that rather than monitoring, let's say, 6,000 devices for a particular event, we're monitoring a handful of devices that meet a certain criteria. So that ability to add additional context keeps the workflow, keeps the not so much attack surface, but the surveillance surface much more valuable. And as you can see here, our Kali Linux box has now shown up. So if you have a campaign that's going on against your organization, this isn't just UI porn. This shows you directionality, the types of communications. You can actually watch that campaign build right within here, right within the activity map. And you can also click over to the actual devices themselves. If I want to drill in here, I'm also presented with a dossier of everything that device is doing, all of the peers. If I want to look and see if they downloaded that executable, you can look here and you can actually see right here, they actually downloaded the executable. That matches what was in the URL house. Anyway, this is an example of where you can maybe do some searching or do some threat hunting of TTPs, right, versus looking at individual IOCs. You can flag devices if they meet a certain IOC, but then you can start to look at the lateral movement that takes place of those devices that have actually downloaded an executable, done a specific DNS, or you've observed a DGA. You now can place these devices in a higher level of surveillance and kind of separate the problem nodes from the myriads, thousands and thousands of other nodes that you're monitoring on a daily basis. Thanks so much for your time. Again, this is John Smith of Extra Hop Networks. Have a great day.